Good evening. Welcome to the Jefferson County Board of Education meeting on Monday, March 27th. If you'd please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Fogel, I believe we have just one or two recognitions tonight. Is that correct?
That good? Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, we have some amazing students to recognize, some staff to celebrate, and just, I think, a really, really good kickoff and send-off into a long-awaited spring break. So we are not going to leave anyone behind, and I will start this evening. Of course, you've seen in the newspaper, you've seen on Facebook all the wonderful achievements of our student athletes, and we'll certainly welcome them back from Charleston and celebrate their achievements. Often we get to go and watch them perform or play or compete, and it's a spectator event where you not only get to celebrate their victory, but feel a part of it as well. Sometimes academics can feel a little bit more isolating, so I'm very excited this evening that we're going to start off celebrating some academic accomplishments of our students, in particular those who traveled to the West Virginia Regional Science and Engineering Fair, as well as the West Virginia State Science and Engineering Fair, and saw wonderful success. I'd like to ask from Washington High School, Jessica Russell to come up, and she's going to talk about some of those achievements.
Good evening. As Mr. Vogel said, my name is Jessica Russler. I teach here at Washington High School. We often get the question, why would a student participate in the science fair? Science fair provides students with an opportunity to explore a topic that they are interested in pursuing. They have a chance to ask a question, then to design an experiment to find an answer. They learn how to do research, how to use a variety of scientific equipment, and how to collect data of many types. They put their findings together in a visual display, then present the information to a group of total strangers. Honestly, there is no other opportunity exactly like this during their time in school. Organization, time management, critical thinking, and public speaking. These are all skills that are in high demand from employers. Our students have demonstrated them as they have completed their projects, but more than that. They have shown that they are exceptionally talented young people who see a challenge and rise to it. They have represented Jefferson County, the Eastern Panhandle, and the state of West Virginia very well. I would like to introduce Hazel Hitt, who is our highest placed participant in the middle school division this year. She will be presenting her project, Lanternflies Surprise.
Okay, so I would first just like to say I'm so grateful for representing Shepherdstown Middle and Jefferson County Schools in the state and regional, and also thank you to the board for inviting me to do this. So spotted lanternflies have recently arrived in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, and people are noticing that they're slowly traveling all over the whole entire state. The reason why they're so well known and people are talking about them so much is because spotted lanternflies could really damage our farms and forests. What spotted lanternflies do, in swarms, they go onto trees, they find microscopic holes, and they suck the sap out of trees, which kills the trees or just weakens them. So because they're so new to our state, we don't know much about their habitat, we don't know what they prefer to eat, we don't know much about them at all. But when I was doing some prior research, I found that people were finding spotted lanternflies all over this tree called Tree of Heaven. So I don't know if any of you guys have smelled Tree of Heaven before, but Tree of Heaven has a very strong scent. So I was wondering, is that why people were finding spotted lanternflies all over Tree of Heaven because the scent is so strong, or was it just a random choice in wilderness for protection? So to collect this, I collected 3 different kinds of trees. I collected Tree of Heaven because it was the original tree people were finding spotted lanternflies on. I collected box elder and pawpaw because they're natives to the area. After collecting my trees, I collected 25 adult lanternflies from Cool Spring Nature Preserve. After I had all of my materials, I created my experimental chamber. My experimental chamber was an empty aquarium with 4 index cards, 4 in each corner. I had 1 index card that I did not rub any trees on, and it was just my control. And then I had 3 other index cards that I rubbed 5 leaves of Tree of Heaven on. I had another index card that I rubbed 5 leaves of Pawpaw on, and another index card that I rubbed 5 leaves of Box Elder on. After I created my experimental chamber, I tested each lanternfly individually by placing them in the middle, and for each trial, by testing them, I put the index card in a different corner. In the beginning, I was just testing which card they were going to or on in seconds, and I was testing that, and it was basically random, and they didn't really have a preference. But as I was testing, I was realizing that almost all of the spotted lanternflies were going to a certain direction of the tank that was facing the forest. So I started taking note of that too, and it very much was not random at all, with almost 79% of the spotted lanternflies going to that direction of the tank. So all of this leads me to believe that spotted lanternflies do not choose the trees they go on based on how strong the scent is, or if there even is a scent, but just prefer trees over grassy areas. So this means that just cutting down Tree of Heaven will not stop the spread of lanternflies, because they may just be equally attracted to all trees.
A couple of years ago, the state restructured the science fair to allow elementary students to participate in the higher levels of competition. This group of elementary school students that I'm about to introduce are the first to have had the opportunity to move on to the regional and the state fairs from Jefferson County, and we hope to see the number of participants grow in the coming years. From the regional science fair, third place in the chemistry category, we have Maddie Klein from South Jefferson. Okay. As I call your name, if you will, meet Mr. Fogel over at the stairs. Third place in Earth and Environmental Science, Spencer Devaney from South Jefferson. Third place in Physics and Astronomy, Keegan Bauer from T.A. Lowry. Third place in Plant Sciences, Louise Grantham from South Jefferson. Second place, Animal Sciences, Lily Carter from South Jefferson. And our top placement, Amelia Stone from T.A. Lowry, first place, Engineering. From the middle school division, third place, Animal Sciences, Samantha Didion and Mason McConnell from Shepherdstown Middle. And first place, Animal Sciences, Hazel Hitt, also from Shepherdstown Middle. I would also like to share regarding Hazel that she was awarded the grand prize for the middle school division at the regional fair. So she was voted the best project. She also went to the state fair and received first place. She will be competing in the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge, where she has the opportunity to be one of 30 national finalists, and the event will take place in October 2023.
I'm going to interrupt just for a moment. This is the photo op. So any parents, fans, admirers, come on up, get a great picture. This is the moment.
send you. I'll remind you.
Another round of applause.
And from the high school fair in Kaiser, we have an honorable mention going to Andrea Cedillo for Behavioral and Social Sciences. Third place, Biomedical and Health Sciences, Andrew Oberly. First place, Animal Sciences, Addison Bellevue and Eliza Quinn. First place, Plant Sciences, Maura Holly. Second place, Mathematics, Sean Viteri. First place, Mathematics, Liam Healy and Zach Segrist. Honorable mention, Earth and Environmental Science, Reese Cannon and Samantha Duvall. A second honorable mention in the same category to Savannah Smith. She also received the NOAA Award for her research. And finally, first place in Earth and Environmental Science, Andrew Russ Stone. Russ's project, Mealworms and Styrofoam, also received several special awards, including the RICO Sustainability Award, the Naval Award, the Air Force Award, and he was determined to be the second overall grand prize at the regional fair, which means he will be going to the International Science Fair in Dallas, Texas, from the 14th through the 19th of May, where he has the opportunity to possibly win a part of $6 million in prizes. As we can all see, students in Jefferson County have excelled in science fair once again this year, and we are so happy to share your success with you this evening. Thank you so much to the teachers and the families who have supported them in their endeavors. My counterpart at Jefferson High School and I are proud to have worked with them, and we can't wait to see what they do in the years to come in science fair and beyond. What will they discover? What will they create? We'll just have to wait and see. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much. A supportive crowd. So that's our first group of recognitions tonight. We have many more to go, and we're going to move into the world of athletics, starting with the Washington High School girls basketball team. If head coach Rasan Edwards is here. So just for planning purposes, everybody, coaches and teachers and supporters are going to talk about the achievement. As they read your name off, I will be standing off to the side with a certificate. Please calmly walk to the front, and we'll pose for a photo op. Ladies and gentlemen, please no flash photography. It does startle the athletes. Autographs will be available in the lobby after, so I urge calm and caution. Sir?
Okay. First of all, thank you all for having us and acknowledging us this year. I want to thank Ms. Marcus and Mr. Carpenter for just giving me the opportunity to coach these wonderful ladies. Just to give you guys we had we started out a little slow, but we were able to, really come along. The girls played extremely well. They fought hard, and we're extremely proud of everything they've accomplished. This was our first year as sectional championship champions, and our first year as regional champions, and first year appearing in a state tournament, so we're extremely proud of that. So I'm going to announce our current players, and we're going to first start out with an all-state honorable mention and also all-conference first team, Lexi Adams. Next, we have Janae Bradley. Andrea Conte. A second team all-conference player, Ariana Hairston. Next, we have Maddie Hardy. Next, we have our second team all-conference, Kendall Itobi. Jalen Campbell. Michaela Michaels. So we have all-state honorable mention, first team all-conference, Mary Rivera. Lastly, Addison Skinner. Also want to bring up our manager, Caitlin Baker. And lastly, definitely right hand, couldn't do it without her, Caitlin Grantham, our assistant coach.
Push open it. Mary, fold it back. Like, fold it back. Oh. Is this in the way? Professional. Smart. Be professional. Does that work? Yes. Be professional, coach.
This is a super serious moment, so thank you all for bearing with me. All right. Here we go. Patriots on three. 1, 2, 3. Patriots! All right, there we go.
Congratulations. Huh? Good job, ladies. You're good.
Washington High School girls were not the only team from Jefferson County to get to states this year. I'd like to welcome Coach Richard Lewis of the Jefferson High School boys basketball team.
I want to thank everybody for having us. This was a great year for us. I'm fortunate to coach so many outstanding young men who work really hard, not just for Jefferson High School, but for their families. They represent their families really well, and they come to work every day. Just wanted to kind of talk about our season and how it was just more than basketball this year. I'm fortunate to be in front of you guys again. Wanted to say that. Thanks for having us again. This is back-to-back years. We've been regional champs 3 years in a row, but we've been in front of you all for the second year in a row. It's also the second year in a row that these wonderful young men has reached the state semifinals. I know our ultimate goal is to win a state championship in every sport, but to reach the state semifinals back-to-back years, being underdogs, going to Charleston, playing against a GW team that's from Charleston, who we lost to by 25 points early in the month, was something special, I think, they achieved. When nobody in Charleston thought they were going to win. I thought that was a great achievement, great honor. But I wanted to also talk about some of the things they achieved throughout the year. We had a chance to go to Charleston in February, and that was a really tough trip basketball-wise. We didn't win any games when we were there, but we also got invited to the house, and that was a wonderful experience where we saw a lot of bills get passed. So we made an educational trip, and I think that was something that they'll always remember just as much as states, just as much as getting down to Charleston for the rest of their lives. We had to meet all our delegates from Jefferson County. They announced us in front of everybody that was there. And we also saw a live bill get passed. And the bill was really intense. It took about 45 minutes to an hour. And I will give them credit. They sat there quietly, and at one point, they got really, really into it. Start asking a lot of questions, start asking things about the bill, start kind of relaying it back to their experiences that they had during class. And we had a couple of guys on our team that couldn't wait to get back to talk about that. So I thought that was a wonderful experience for us. So it's not just a little bit more than basketball, but it was a tough trip for us, but I think they got something out of it. Back to basketball. Just wanted to, like I say thanks. We had a wonderful year. We're 17-8. We wasn't 20-0 this year. Wasn't 23-1 this year and 20-0 in regular season, but I thought the gratification at the end was still there. I thought they worked just as hard. Some of the young men I'm going to announce, they've been here 3 years in a row. They've been to Charleston 3 years in a row, and that's not easy. It's not easy for anybody to do. And I think they come to work hard every day, and they deserve every single award that they get, every recognition. So I just wanted to make sure we give Jefferson boys basketball 22-23 team a round of applause. Thank you. We have some that couldn't make it today, so I'm going to still recognize them. So I want to make sure that they're recognized even though they're not in attendance. The first name on my list, Jaden Gladney. He was honorable mention All-State, first team All-Conference. He was a returning member, and he's actually been fortunate to reach Charleston 3 years in a row. Next, if he can come on down, Colin Johnson. Colin was our 4th leading scorer on the team. Looking for big things from Colin next year. He's a junior. Next is Jamari Jenkins. He was a first-team All-State recognition, first-team All-Conference. He's a sophomore. Looking for big things from Jamari in the future. Next, we have another sophomore. He's a 3-sport athlete. He plays basketball, football, and played basketball this year. And that's a sophomore, Tayshawn Roper. He was a starter for us as well. Next, we have a senior who's played 1 year varsity basketball, but he was really instrumental in helping us reach Charleston and having the year we had, is Moses Talley. Next, we have he's not present today. He's a 2-sport athlete. Reason he's not here, he has a baseball game, and that's Ty Vickers. Next, we have one of our juniors. He came to practice every day. He worked his tail off. He was so instrumental in helping us in Charleston, getting ready for the GW game. And I can't thank him enough, and that's Reese Hickey. We have another player that's not present. He was a freshman for us on varsity. He was instrumental in helping us as well, as that's Chet Gore. I have another sophomore. He double rostered this year. He was really instrumental, like I said, helping us, getting ready for states as well. Really played his role really well in practice, almost too well. That's Demarius Wallace. Next, we have another 3-sport athlete, track. He's also probably one of the fastest guys in the state. He decided to play basketball this year. He's all-state football player. He's going to Shepherd University. He was really instrumental in helping us. He did anything we asked, whether it be practice, during the game, defensively, offensively. That's Isaiah Fritz. Next, we have a junior. He's once again, he helped us tremendously during the year. He came to practice every day, worked his tail off, and helped us really get ready for states. That's Luke Swisher. He's a junior. Next, we have, he's not present. He's a 9th grader, Takeem Drake. Another sophomore, he double roster for us, that's Wesley J. Next, we have the last 2 brothers left. We have 2nd team all conference, our big man in the middle, rebounder, Wyatt Shobley. And next, I think last but not least, they call him Captain Cougar, so I had to embarrass him. Wanted to save him for last. The announcers called him Captain Cougar this year. He's been a 4-year starter. I hate to see him go. He's been in states 3 out of the last 4 years. He's been all conference 4 years. He's been all state 3 years. And first team, 3rd team all state as a freshman. And the last 2 years, honorable mention all state. And that's Will Shobley. And he's going to Hood. And he's going to Hood to play basketball. going to Hood College to play basketball next year as well. And then one of my assistants couldn't be here tonight, and that's Tommy Murray. And I have my other assistant who's present. He's been instrumental in putting a lot of game plans together, a lot of film, and that's William Fleming. Once again, I want to thank you all for having us. It's a great honor.
If you guys also want to file behind the board, go ahead and get your picture. Come on out in front, don't be shy.
Good job, guys.
Another round of applause for the Cougars. All right, we're going to continue with sports now. Back over to Washington High School and their swim team. I'd like to invite Keegan Simmons, the head coach, up. Washington High School went to the WSSAC State Swim Championship, and we wanted to make sure to recognize that achievement.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Keegan. I apologize. I am a new coach, and part of that means I don't know how things go, so I didn't prepare absolutely anything for this. So, I guess what I'll say is just, it's my first year coaching, and I had a blast. And really, the one thing that I want to say is just that this swim team this year was very special in that they really essentially believed in me and did everything that they could to work as hard as they can and get themselves to where they are now, where they got to these guys got to states, others that didn't get there. Swimming's not a very glamorous sport. It's not something that is very fun to practice a lot of the time, especially if you want to get better at it. But these guys did the dirty work, so kudos to them. You got them over there? Perfect. All right, we'll go in order. So first up, I would like to have Liliana Fote come up. Next, we have Samantha Williams. And then next, we have Brogan Barlow. And then Kaylin Wallace. These four, I'd also like to say, broke a record this year, so kudos to them. And Samantha broke her own record in the 100-yard breaststroke, so kudos to her. She's not here, but I'd also like to honor Rose Pizzini, who also made it to the States. And then on the boys' side, he's not here right now, but Ethan Powers. Next up, we have Spencer Lefebvre. We also have Ishan Hadi. He'll be up here again. Apparently he's multi-talented. Then we have William Miles. last but not least, we've got Andrew Russ Stone. Another multi-talented member of the team. All right.
Let's give him a round of applause. If you'll all file behind the board really quickly, we'll get a photograph. Anyone want pictures? Come on up now. Don't be shy, they're out of the splash zone. All right, I'm going to get one more. Patriots on three. 1, 2, 3. Patriots. All right. Okay, we'll stay at Washington High School while we're just getting out of the pool and head over to the wrestling mats. We had wrestlers get to states this year. Their head coach was unable to join us this evening, but I will welcome Athletic Director at Washington High School, Samuel Carpenter, up here to help out. As we recognize these wrestlers for their hard work. Wrestling is an incredibly demanding sport, both mentally and physically. It's often described as the most individualistic team sport out there. It takes a lot of hard work, whether you're cutting weight, lifting weight, or just trying to wait around during a tournament for your number finally to get called. So as we call these folks up, give them a round of applause. And if I mispronounce any names, I apologize in advance. Starting off, we have Charlotte Karasnik. Yes, thank you. Charlotte placed 4th at the girls wrestling state tournament this year, so big round of applause for her. Next up, Jack Todd. Kai Plinsky, who is a state champion. Placing 6th at state this year, Logan McFarland. James Todd. Zach Meisenzahl. Caleb Kershisnik. Chase Crutchley. Garrett Fauble. Jaden McCartney. And Kojo Osafo Mensah. And then assistant coach Tyler Sigler. All right, not here, but hey, round of applause for our Patriot wrestlers. And if y'all slide behind real quick, we'll get a quick picture. One, two, that's wrestling stuff. Sorry. All right. 1, 2, 3. Patriots. There you go. Someone listen. Thank you. Our Jefferson High School Cougars also hit the mat hard at the state tournament. I'd like to welcome Robbie Webb, head coach.
Good evening, board members, faculty, and parents. The JHS wrestling coach and staff would like to thank the Board of Education administrators and athletic departments at Wildwood Middle School, Charlestown Middle School, their parents, and their athletes for their continued support as we focus on regrowing our program. We had our first in-school match this year in over 15 years. We had some old opponents like Brunswick. We also hosted East Hardy High School. We are planning to host a 28 to 30 team tournament in December, as well as host regionals for Region 2 in February of next year. Jefferson qualified 5 out of its 7 wrestlers for the West Virginia AAA State Tournament. They are, at 120 pounds, Tristan Rucker, 215 pounds, Michael Graham, 144 pounds, Dalton Martinez, and 190 pounds, Jonas Weiser. That'll work for me, brother. Go Cougars.
All right, anyone who wants to take a photo, knock me down. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Volume 2. All right. It's a great, it's a great thing to have all these kids, all these students who excel, whether it's academically, whether athletically. We're moving now into the arts, where we have been celebrating a lot this year, but this next one is, I liken it to the Super Bowl. You've all heard of the big game. This is very similar for jazz bands across the state of West Virginia, and we had 2 schools place. I'd like to welcome Lisa Hazlett up, who, before she gets up here, everybody, Ms. Hazlett is the first female high school band director in West Virginia history to have any honor band at all. So, round of applause.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Hazlett, and I am the proud band director at Washington High School. Thank you to our superintendent and our wonderful school board, our administration at Washington also, and of course our parents and students. Our journey started this December, deciding which 3 pieces to play at festival. They started out with about 20, 25 pieces in their folder, and we whittled them down to 3. And of course they chose the ones that went way above and way beyond in terms of difficulty and quality. We performed at the Shepherd University Jazz Festival, had a wonderful experience there. We're so blessed to have them in our county. And that happened on February 18th. The Tuesday after that, we were at St. James Catholic Church, and we played at their Carnivale Festival for Mardi Gras, had a ball there. It was a really busy week. Then we went to Jefferson High School and played at the Eastern Regional Jazz Festival. That was on the 25th of February, and the students earned straight superior ratings. With these ratings, our recordings are sent blindly to 3 highly esteemed judges in the area of jazz. About 24 hours later, on February 26th, the very next day, I received the call that out of all the high school jazz ensembles in the state, we placed first. In between each one of the bands, there's usually 1 or 2 points difference. These students were in first place by 12 points. Special thank you to Mrs. Marcus, who made a promise to these students that she would travel down to Charleston, maybe not thinking that we would make it, but she rode a school bus all the way down to Charleston, and we're very thankful for that. Also, we have some unsung heroes in this whole story. Larry Willingham and Heather Pindell in our transportation department performed some transportation miracles for us. When every mode of transportation had run dry, they found us a wonderful driver. I know her name's Mary. I don't know where she is, but Mary, thank you also for getting us down there safely. So congratulations to our transportation department. We had the pleasure of performing at the West Virginia Music Educators Association State Conference in Charleston on March 2nd in front of every music educator in the state and received a very well-earned standing ovation. We were recognized at the state capitol and had a wonderful experience looking at the West Virginia History Museum also. This is the first honor band, either concert or jazz ensemble, for Washington High School. This is a very special group of students, and I couldn't be more proud to call them our state champs. So are these in order? Okay. First person is Becky McGivern. Becky's a sophomore trumpet player. Senior trumpet player Jacob Perkowski. Senior alto player Nathan Trimmer. Junior alto player Josh Molina. Junior alto player Harper Brumall. Senior tenor player Seth Vorhauer. Senior tenor sax Ishan Hattie. Junior bari sax Ben Kaltreiter. My son, junior trumpet player Patrick Hazlett. Freshman trumpet player Gavin Frazier. Senior trombone Rhett Snyder. Junior trombone Nick Sokol. Sophomore trombone Jonathan Hartzell. Freshman trombone, Mason Bennett. Senior drummer, William Carr. Senior percussion, Madison Levine. Freshman percussion, Emilio Perez-Diggs. Sophomore piano player, Lauren Rossi. And freshman guitar player, Lucas Vega-Leon.
All right, we're moving behind the board this evening. It's a new thing. Work with me. All right. So there's a chance everyone might need a wide angle. Okay, gang, B sharp on 3. All right. Go Patriots. 1, 2, 3. That's better. Okay, all right. Thank you. And of course, one of the things that leads to success in life is a good educational experience. What leads to success in high school is sometimes building on the work that is done in our feeder schools, our middle schools, and our elementary schools. I'd like to invite Mr. Charles Wall up from Harpers Ferry Middle School. they have also achieved this esteemed honor. So I'll pass that off to you.
Welcome. Well, the first thing I'd like to do, unlike all other people, I'd like all the band kids to come up here and stand up with me, because that's what it's all about. I know you're going to come up and do something. We do whatever we do together, and first of all, how proud I am of these kids. And I've been teaching a long time, 36 years. Wow. You know, I'd retire, but I think when I first started working in Jefferson County, I think we were still part of Virginia. So, and there's litigation involved. But anyway, so it's been a long time. What keeps you going as far as how wonderful these kids are? We went to the Shepherd University Festival. We went to the Eastern Regional Jazz Festival, superior ratings wherever we went. These kids also in the middle school division listened to recordings, and they were picked as the top group. Number 2 was 26 points behind. The only person that thought we weren't going to Charleston was me. I don't know. Everybody was like, well, it was good. So I'm really proud of these kids and how hard they're willing to work, and they keep me enthusiastic. Most teachers my age are like, okay, when can I go and do things? I want to apologize for my parents. My sister had surgery today. I just got here like right before he had met the kids, just the shoulder surgery. And apparently the surgeon and the nurses and the doctors and the pharmacists didn't get my letter telling everybody we need to be here at 5:35. So, but we made it and we're there. So, and that's all went well, and we're happy. So, but anyway, thanks. Yeah. Another thing, it was interesting. This, I think this is the 4th time we've been doing this at Harper's Ferry. 3rd time in the last 7 years. So, pretty long tradition. Apparently in the pandemic, it's hard to get buses. And we couldn't get buses, but we got parents. And the loudest applause for anybody this evening ought to be mom and dad. Because they drove the gear down, they drove all the stuff down, and couldn't do it without them. And so thank you very much for recognizing us. And I think I'm supposed to read some names. It's a good thing. Obviously, I'm not prepared, but I'm good at winging it. We improvise. All righty, just to call these names out. Aiden Bauer, alto saxophone. Kaylee Trieo, alto saxophone. Liam Hall, alto saxophone. And a couple of them might not be here. Peyton Schnabley, I don't know that Peyton's here tonight, so we'll remember and recognize her. Alexa Stone. Ren Rice. She was unable to be here. Keating Amos. Yeah, there's some of them aren't here. Sean Wagner. We'll read them off anyway because they're all part of the band. Alex Bartlett. Georgia Hennigan. Ryan Martinez, trumpet. And Alex is a trumpet player and George's was a trumpet player. Evan Maley is trumpet. McKenna Kells, trumpet. Aurora Jackson, trumpet. I think Aurora's not here tonight. Kaylee Toth, trombone. Holland Rossi, trombone. Naya Previdal, trombone. Claire Adams, trombone. Ilya Sapasco, bass guitar. McKenna Stovall. And Thad Jackson, bass guitar, are not here. Harrison Garrett, percussion, drum set. August Thompson, drum set. Zane Lambert. Where is Zane? Zane was around here. He had to go to the basketball game. And Anna Lassen, piano. Thank you very much for recognizing us, and thanks to the kids and the parents for all their support this year.
All right, come on forward, get a good center shot, everybody. Up close. If you all want to sort of get behind the board. Sorry, I know jazz band doesn't march.
squished together.
Okay, all right, I'm going to get one if I can get far enough back. All right. And a 1, and a 2. Got it. Round of applause. Thank you. These are the students who were unable to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you. And last group of the evening, our elementary school West Virginia all children's choir. Katie Madrid is going to come forward and help me out. I'll let you talk.
First of all, I want to thank the parents and the All-State Chorus students who have stayed here for a while and waited to be recognized. Thank you, board, for inviting us. Oh, go ahead. Yes. Thank you, board, for inviting us here this evening and recognizing us. And I also want to thank our building principals of the elementary schools, as well as Tara Mahoney and her assistant at the board office. They have been so generous in supporting us to even be down in Charleston for this event. And you saw these amazing jazz band students. Well, elementary school is where it's at. We laid that groundwork, those foundations, those fundamentals for them to feed into the middle and high schools. And I'm just so excited that these students behind us have done so much work. It started back in the fall with their individual choral teachers at the elementary and one of our middle school choir directors, Mrs. Dove, as well, because All-State Children's Chorus, yeah, give her a hand. All-State Children's Chorus is for the cream of the crop in West Virginia for grades 4th, 5th, and 6th. And so that's why we were allowed to have some middle school students join us as well. But it started out back in the fall, and each of the students who were selected by the choral directors studied 9 different pieces, some in 2-part, some in 3-part harmony. And 3 of those pieces were in foreign languages. So that just alone, to hear that accomplishment that these students behind me did is amazing. And they gave up after school time to practice with the directors. They gave up recesses sometimes. So that's a lot for an elementary student to do. And then, of course, they were in 2 long days of rehearsals on Thursday and Friday, the very 1st of March, where they worked with a professional conductor and joined all the other selected West Virginia All-State Children's Chorus, which was close to 300 students in the state. And this professional conductor kind of polished the pieces up, and of course they performed at the Clay Center in Charleston on Friday, March the 3rd. So with that said, I'll go ahead. Am I missing something, directors? All right. Well, I'll go ahead and I'm going to introduce, I'll introduce myself and my students, and then the other directors can come down and introduce themselves and their students. Does that work okay, directors? Okay, I'll start out. I'm, again, Katie Madrid from Wright Denny Intermediate, and my students I would like to recognize are Jonathan Gooseman, Bryn Leister. That messed it up, Bryn. I'm sorry. Jordan Conley. And my daughter, Madison Madrid. Any other? Mrs. Levine?
I'm the music teacher at Blue Ridge Elementary School. My students could not be here this evening, but I do want to recognize them, Declan Boggs and Jason Jones. I'm the music teacher at Shepherdstown Elementary School, and I'm going to introduce Lizzie Gorsuch, Gabby Orr, Stevie Mattert, and Gracie Grantham, who is not here right now.
Hello, my name is Angela Wyatt, and I'm the music teacher at Drisswood Elementary. One of my students could not be here this evening, but I would like to take a moment and acknowledge her. That is Miss Lila McGuire. And then the other student from Drisswood Elementary is Miss Charlotte Nichols.
I'm Lindsay Dove from Charlestown Middle School, and I'd like to recognize two of my three students that are here tonight. I have Eva Burns, Natalia Davis, and Harper Valasek could not be here tonight. Thank you again.
In the music business, this is what they call improv. So bear with me just a moment. Come on up, get your pictures, please. And yes, please go on behind the board now that everyone has their certificate. And the last heavy lift was that they waited patiently and professionally and with maturity this evening through a very long presentation. So round of applause for that, kids. Thank you. Yeah, music directors, please join them. March of the Music Teachers. Here we go. Big round of applause. Well done. All right, I'm going to get one. Great. Thank you, kids. Thank you very, very much. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, that is a sampling of the talent, the dedication, and the skill in Jefferson County Schools. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Fogel. Who knew presentations during a board meeting would be a full-time position? Before we actually start the business portion of our meeting this evening, after all of that fanfare and great stuff, I would like to just ask the board for a moment of silence because Jefferson County Schools lost an employee, Lynn Black, on March 16th. So if you'd please just join me for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Next, we have the Deputy Superintendent of Operations update, Mrs. Joyce White.
Making sure it's going to stay.
Good
Good evening. For my first update, I'd like to talk again about the sound system installation timeline. We had originally announced that that was going to occur during spring break, but it's been accelerated, and it will start sometime this week. So we're excited about that.
Can I just tell you how exciting that is?
No.
Listening to the Charlie Brown at the track meets is so exciting.
I agree. We've heard feedback from several schools during LSIC presentations that they're in need of camera upgrades. So we've been working behind the scenes to try to make those dreams and wishes come true. Harper's Ferry is currently getting camera upgrades. We were able this year on a replacement cycle, which we created based on need of the schools, to put all of them on a replacement cycle. Harper's Ferry won the lottery and was first. So we attached a funding source, and they'll be getting cameras upgraded. We're also working in the next budget cycle to attach a funding source to continue with camera upgrades, particularly in the secondary schools at this time, so that we're able to keep a better tab on things. So we're excited about that endeavor. I know we wrapped up Harper's Ferry Middle School, but I'm so excited to announce the portables have left the county. So we're completely back to normal at Harper's Ferry Middle School on that campus. The children, as you know, are in classes and everything is going very well. We're starting to plan for summer projects. Mr. Caton has asked principals to name their projects and get those to him so that we can complete those. As you know, we're still having the summer school and the big cycle of summer schools, so we'll be working around those projects as well as doing various board projects this summer. We're currently working right now on the security upgrades, the secure entrances, and planning those out. Some of the buildings are historical, so we're working around those aspects and factors in order to make our buildings safe, but yet aesthetically pleasing. Finally, the Family Strengthening Series, it's being put on by our attendance department, and I just wanted to bring that back to light. We have 2 more sessions left at North Jefferson Elementary, one on April 22nd, which is a Saturday from 8:30 to 12, one on May 13th from 8:30 to 12. It is a nurtured heart approach. I do know that the lady doing it is excellent in her field. It's a non-judgmental space. It is safe. It provides childcare and some light refreshments. So we encourage families to contact Devin Pearl at the central office or to get on jcswv.org to learn more about it and get signed up. All families are welcome to participate. That concludes my update for this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Next,
Can
we
I-
have.
Can I ask a question? I have a couple questions. I couldn't hear in the beginning. Did you mention anything about the SBA and Ranson Elementary? Have you heard back? When do you expect to hear anything from the school building authority?
Probably later this week.
Okay, and then the other is Shepherdstown Elementary. That you sent to the state, I think, in January?
No, actually, the water needed a redesign. We've been working with the SBA on that because it's on-site water. We needed to shift and completely redesign it. So that redesign is being concluded and the permits are being issued, and then the SBA at that point will look at a final submittal and be able to let us go out to bid.
So Was it sent to the state, I thought, in January for approval, but you're saying after that happened, they said?
It's been there, yes, but then it needed the revision of the on-site water. So they can't give it a final approval until that's done. So it's had to be totally designed.
Okay.
Totally, because it was public, now it needs to be on-site.
Okay, and when do you expect that? You don't know?
2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And then the SBA will approve it. Once they give their approval, they give us the bid dates of when we can go out to bid for Shepherdstown.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held March 13th, 2023, and the special board meeting held March 14th, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from March 13th and March 14th, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Thank you. Citizens' comments. This evening we have Ms. Bobby Block up first on Zoom, followed by Caitlin Grantham. Ms. Block, can you hear us? Ms. Block, are you there?
I'm here.
All right, whenever you're ready, ma'am.
Good evening. I am grateful to be able to testify on behalf of the students of Jefferson Public Schools. They deserve to reach their fullest potential. Having witnessed them perform and have the pleasure of seeing them making progress academically, artistically, and athletically is a joy. And we need to protect them. Unfortunately, last week, it was reported that Rockwell continues to be in lack of compliance with the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, DEP. One major concern was a failure to make required emissions measurements. Rockwell continues to operate under a permit that is virtually invalid, and it reflects that their current operation is more threatening than before. It's a sad state of affairs that Rockwell's facility failed to address the building requirements. As a result, they're out of compliance with the West Virginia DEP and has failed to modify the permit during these 3 years of construction. It's even sadder that the BoE has been intimidated and remained silent. In the last 2 years, the BoE has been negligent in reviewing the Health and Human Risk Assessment, HHRA, with regard to the major operational changes and emissions. It's hard to believe that the BoE's inaction is possibly supporting Rockwell's toxic actions that have the potential of poisoning our community. Rockwell has demonstrated that it has no interest in honoring the Golden Rule. Pray that the BoE has the courage to honor the Golden Rule. And note that the HHRA, page 14, section 6, that uncertainties are inherent in any risk assessment, and a discussion of the uncertainties helps put into perspective the risk calculated for a site. Uncertainties may be associated with the environmental data to assess exposure, the estimated of exposure, and the toxicity of the chemicals. Realize there is a number of issues confronting the BoE at this time. However, the HHRA has been pending for over 2 years. The BoE can be viewed as culpable, yet at the same time, several members of the BoE are personally aware of family members or friends struggling with asthma, and some are personally aware of health threats from PFAS.
Thank you, Ms. Block. Next up is Caitlin Thorsell Grantham, who happens to be a celebrity in this building, a former West Virginia State Teacher of the Year.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Grantham, and I'm an agriculture teacher and FFA advisor here at Washington High School. This past Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the Your Night to Shine prom along with some of our FFA members that was held at Airborne Church in Martinsburg. For those who may not know, this event was a sensory-friendly prom experience held with the same extravagance and grandeur that you would associate with a prom. Each honored guest was paired with a neurotypical peer host to enjoy their company, take photos, navigate food stations, converse, help with social cues, and assist as needed. Guests arrived to a rolled-out red carpet and were greeted by paparazzi as they walked the red carpet. They were glammed up with jewelry and boutonnieres and created cherished memories at the photo booth. The DJ kept them dancing all night long, and snacks and drinks were provided by a local high school. A parent lounge was available with its own DJ and a big screen TV so parents could enjoy the prom themselves while watching their child on the screen. Each honored guest was dubbed prom royalty and received a sash and a crown, and party favors were provided at the end of the night. My students shared that they had a wonderful time with their honored guest and already can't wait for next year. I left the experience with a joyful heart and a renewed energy for the remainder of this semester. My reason for this public comment is oftentimes we recognize our students for their accomplishments, but I wanted to say thank you to a couple Jefferson County School employees who basically made this event happen. I'm sure there are many more to thank, and I don't personally know who some of them are, but I especially wanted to thank Haley Kern and Matthew Wink. Mr. Wink is the Assistant Superintendent of Special Programs, and Haley Kern is a Parent and Education Resource Coordinator for Jefferson County Schools. Both played a pivotal role in creating an event that was enjoyed by everyone in attendance. Haley actually came to one of our FFA meetings after school and spoke to our members about volunteer opportunities. She also coordinated the volunteers and held a meeting to provide information and answer any questions. The event was exceptional. Every detail was truly thought out, and I know that took a tremendous amount of planning and coordination, a lot of which Haley was responsible for. Both Haley and Mr. Wink should be commended for their effort in not only having the idea for this event, but making it run smoothly and efficiently. And then I also just wanted to thank Jefferson County Schools, Berkeley County Schools, and Morgan County Schools for working together to create this event and making it a great opportunity for all of our students. And again, a great time was had by all, and I too cannot wait until next year. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next up we have the consent agenda. Good evening.
Good evening. There are no changes to the Human Resources consent agenda that is presented to you for your approval this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. I have concerns about two attorneys' fees. Both are over $20,000, and I question the use of the attorney, one of the attorneys, and the other. I believe that the whole board should be agreeing to use attorney for, it shouldn't be just personal use for a single board member to have access to the attorney. So I have concerns about these attorney fees. I'm waiting for more information from Dr. Gibson Learn about one of them, but that's all.
Any other comments? All right, all those in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oppose.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have new business, financial update to the board. Oh, you're right, old business, unfinished business. I asked Mrs. Harner to put on the agenda a superintendent search update from here until we find a superintendent, just in case there's something that comes up that we need to discuss. I believe Dr. Gibson-Learn is holding up a flyer right now that I can't, my eyesight is not that good, I'm sorry. Thank you. Oh, yes. We're currently having the community and staff Zoom forums for input, and the next one is Tuesday, March 28th at 6 p.m. for community input. It's to share your ideas and feedback about the traits and skills the next superintendent of Jefferson County Schools should possess. You can join the discussion by using the Zoom link or by scanning the QR code, and I believe that's on our website if I'm not mistaken. But it is tomorrow evening at 6 p.m.
I have a couple concerns about the superintendent search.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the search ends 4 weeks after, but the Hispanic, the platform to advertise for the Hispanic group, we were told we would have 6 weeks of advertising, so that's going to be cut short by 2 weeks. That's one concern. And then the other concern is that I know the first couple of forums, most people didn't know about these forums. I posted them on Facebook in different communities, so there were about, all total, 6 people that showed up, and I know half of them saw it on Facebook. So they didn't get notice. I'm wondering if, I don't know how much participation there'll be going forward, but I'm hoping that there would be more advertising. Also, I am concerned that we're using the staff. The concern that Ms. Ogden had was that we would use staff to, do the search, and that was why she wanted to pay this company. But so far, we've used, for the communication, we are using our staff member, and so that's a concern. I don't know how to rectify that. And also, the other was the mention that the executive secretary would be scheduling. And I just believe that if the company's being paid, they ought to do the scheduling. I don't see why the scheduling should be done by our employees. So those are my concerns.
I can address those concerns. The first one was the advertising being 6 weeks, and that's because that mode of advertisement, you can only purchase it in 6-week blocks. And so it's not that it's being shortchanged, it's just, it's a 6-week purchase. You can't buy 4 weeks. I guess their, materials only come out every 6 weeks. So that's the reasoning for that. As far as communication of the sessions, I know that for the one tomorrow, I believe I got a text message and a voicemail or an email today about the one tomorrow. And the one tomorrow is one that they added in hopes of getting more participation. So they are definitely doing their best to get as much community engagement as possible. As far as the executive secretary scheduling, I'm not sure what you mean by scheduling. I know that Dr. Joel came up with dates, and then our people went ahead and pushed that information out, because a search firm doesn't have access to our community or our parents or know who to get the information to. And that's why they asked to utilize our public information officer and our executive secretary to actually push that information out to our people.
Well, so I know for service personnel, their meeting was scheduled, I think, maybe noon and 2. The times that they were given was during their workday.
5 o'clock today.
Excuse me?
So 5 o'clock today.
It
as
was
well, when
rescheduled.
we had a meeting.
Correct. But the first 2 for the parents, it was the community, was that rescheduled? I didn't receive a text. Nobody I knew received any notification about the meetings.
The meeting for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I know I received it maybe because I'm a parent. I'm not quite sure. But I know that they asked the directors of the service personnel what convenient times they would be. And that is why they came up with 2 meetings for service personnel, so that those working different shifts would be able to attend on their off time.
I didn't see anything in the paper scheduling, advertising for the community about the, giving their input. So, I understand if you're a parent, you might have received a text, but for the community at large, I think that it just wasn't really well advertised.
Well,
Yeah, for tomorrow's, Ms. Skinner, I did receive a text and a phone call as I walked in this evening. But for the ones that they had last week, I'm a parent just like you, and I didn't receive anything other than what went out from Jefferson County Schools. So I didn't get the text message or anything last week, but I got it this week.
right, and I think that that's in reaction to the low turnout last week, is that they kind of regrouped and decided to send out the text message and the email or voicemail or whatever it was to make it better. I mean,
So that they could get
to
more
learn,
people.
right. They've learned from the lack of participation that that's what they need to do, so I appreciate them having additional sessions for us. Any other questions on the superintendent search? All right, new business, financial update to the board. Good evening.
Good evening. How's everyone this evening? Mr. Johnson should be getting our PowerPoint ready for this evening. Tonight's financial overview will be reviewing our current financial status. Okay, I will move this to get a little closer. Does that help? Okay. Tonight's financial overview will look over the status of our finances as of January 31st of this year. So it was the books closed as of January 31st, so July 1 until January 31st. When the board created their budget last year in May for approval, you had a projected revenue of $111 million. As of January 31st, we had received $58 million of that revenue. 63% of that has been received as our local funds, 44% from state funds, 5% from federal funds, and 9% of other. Our state funds and our local funds cover most of, obviously, our expenses. Our federal budget comes from our Medicaid services, and others come from different revenue sources. Different revenue sources. Our general fund expenditures, the number that you see there of the $44 million, is of our money that we had received, of our expenses, as of January 2023. Our salary and benefits are 76% of our expenditures. Our purchase professional and technical services are 2% of our expenditures, and our purchase services that are other are 5%. I do have a little bit more information to break those down a little bit further into smaller categories so you can see what's underneath of each of those, okay? Our general fund salary and benefits, quite a slide of information from Excel for you, so I'm going to highlight a couple areas. We do have our professional personnel, which is a budget of $37 million. Our actual funds spent were $16 million. And our benefits total for 2023 as of January was $7 million for a total of $33.9 million, again, of January 31st. Mr. Johnson, if we can look at the next slide, please. $33.4 million of our expenditures account for the 76% of our budget. Our benefits take up our health, dental, vision insurance, long-term disability, retirement, and matching FICA. I think it's important for the board to realize and recognize and point out that 26% of our salaries, the benefits piece. So the total cost of Jefferson County Board of Education for an employee making $50,000 is approximately $63,000. A couple other things that are listed in our salaries and benefits for you to know is that our recruitment and retention program, we have a tuition reimbursement program that you had budgeted for. We have paid out $10,000 to date, and we've encumbered $68,000. Our micro-credentials, and I think this is great, recognizing that it's a new program, and the fact that this puts money right into our teachers' pockets for their service, for their extra work during micro-credentials, and giving them some professional development to employ with our students. Their payout was $820,000 as of February. That was the most recent data, and I wanted to give you the cleanest information from there. Our general fund purchase services, there are a couple of informational points that I would like to highlight for you. Our professional educators budget covers our pre-K program, and that program goes right to EPIC, so they're consulted through EPIC. The Harpers Ferry Middle School project had an original budget of $1 million, and thanks to the hard work of our maintenance and operations department, we came at $830,000. That covered the rentals, the temporary classrooms at Harpers Ferry Middle School, and the money that was paid out to contractors. Our communication budget covers postage, telephone, voice, and data services, so that also includes the internet. And our student transportation budget covers our contract buses. Those are buses that we use outside of our school buses for either longer trips or the fact that due to times for athletic events, for example, if they have to get to a certain event early, we have to use different resources for buses because a school doesn't have lights, for example, out of our county, and we have to get our kids there in order to get them, and so we have to pick up some buses in the middle of the day. The two larger budget items in there for purchase professional services are our other professionals budget. You saw that on your previous page, but it's at $1.6 million. Those other professionals cover the list of people there, our athletic trainers, part of your recruitment and retention plan. Social workers are covered under the Children's Home Society, the audit that has to get completed each year, legal services, that covers currently, as of January, $5,000 for grievances, and $153,000 for other legal services. Video production services, our resource officers at Jefferson High School and Washington High School, and our special education services to meet student IEP needs. The interagency purchase services, which were on that previous slide and allocated $1.9 million, are services to EPIC, charter school allocations, and I'd like to explain that a little bit further. We had just received an email last week, actually, from the chief school business officer at the state level that allocates the money that we had to set aside for charter schools from our state aid. So there's a general number that comes from what our student expectations are in our enrollment, and then the number of students that the state expected to be enrolled in the charter schools, since that was new. We just got those numbers. You had budgeted $928,000 for that, and our numbers are $754,000. So we'll be adjusting our budget to reflect what the state is expecting us to have pulled from our state aid in order to cover the charter school students. Crossing guards at a few of our elementary schools, our student navigator, and I'll be giving more detail in my next presentation, but our interagency purchases also cover our excess levy money that our voters ask for us to put away for certain services. Our general fund purchases, supplies, and others is the last big piece of this. Debt-related services are our interest and capital leases, and our reserve funds cover new students that are coming in that might have an IEP that has specific needs, or if we've evaluated a student through data research and we find out that they need extra support, maybe a paraprofessional, maybe a one-to-one aide, those are where that money is set aside to help support our students if those things change throughout the school year. The next slide kind of covers what I would call the board savings account. I wanted to share with you your balances as of January of 2023 in the stretch of projects that you've asked for the board for us to put aside for you. In reviewing this with JLT, we will draw down HVAC this year. Our digital one-to-one will draw down a little bit for replacement of computers. And the rest of those things are on a replacement schedule that has been built with maintenance and operations. Okay? Some future thoughts about financial planning and things that are being taken in consideration into building the budget for next year. Continued investment and implementation of the recruitment and retention plan. For example, tuition, certifications like tuition reimbursement, my apologies, certifications, licensures, and the micro-credentials. Looked at increased intervention services for students, such as looking at growing our alternative programs such as the OLC. Continue sustainability of your designated initiatives. Allocating carryover funds for the budget overages at Ranson and Shepherdstown for next year, and then how our board and our system is going to start budgeting funds once we've gotten rid of all of our ESSER funds, which you probably think of as COVID money, and what that would look like in our budget. Do you have any questions?
I have some questions.
Sure.
Did you say that this budget was ending January 31st or January 1st?
No, ma'am. The data that you're seeing was of our books that had closed for us financially for January 31st. So this budget isn't ending. It's just where we are with our balances as of January 31st.
So that's the money that was paid out as of January 31st?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that doesn't reflect anything from January 31st till now?
Correct.
Okay. And the recruitment and retention, I keep getting emails from employees that are long-term subs who are certified, and they are asking to get their checks. And they say they're not hearing. Who do they go to for that?
If you're speaking of particular employees that were brought to our attention most recently.
I can't say that again.
If you're speaking of particular employees that were brought to our attention most recently, we've worked on that with Human Resources within the last 5 days, and we're working on making sure that we have those accommodations made for those employees as of April 10th.
No, that's a different one. I know about the one April 10th. This person contacted me again today and haven't gotten a response yet from anybody.
If you reach out to us with their name, I'm happy to look and work with HR to see about their certification status and go in that direction.
Okay. And so how much that, so you're saying 90,000 was already spent on the recruitment retention? Is that the way I understand?
Are you speaking about the tuition reimbursement?
Yeah.
That's probably the number you're talking about.
I'm just wondering how much is budgeted, because is it 90,000 for these, I guess it's the levy checks. That's the main concern that people have, that they're not receiving these levy checks, even though they're employees, they're long-term subs, and they're certified. So where does that factor in this?
Sure, you've kind of got two questions, so let me kind of split those up for you. The $90,000 that you're referring to, we have a budget in the recruitment and retention program for tuition reimbursement. That's completely separate from the levies. What you will see in my levy presentation is that we've put out about $4.3 million to our staff for levy money for their 3 levy pays. For this year, that will be forthcoming after the May 1 comes. And we can talk that a little bit more in the levy presentation, and maybe that'll clarify it for you.
Okay, so I should ask about these levy checks during your levy, after your levy presentation?
I think it might be helpful to see that information on the slideshow for you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I just have one more question.
Sure.
And it's about the charter schools. So I believe you said that the state came back and said over 900,000 is what this Jefferson County schools needs to give for the charter schools. But you had budgeted for about 700,000. Is that correct?
I think that was heard backwards, so let me work to explain that a little bit better. At the beginning of every fiscal year, and we start our budget season, we are given a state allocation formula. And the state tells us how much money we're going to get for Step 7 money and for salaries and for what their expectation of our local share for taxes will be. And we get that number, and they're called preliminary computations. We get a second computation, and it kind of gives a fact of you have this many students based on your enrollment and how many students would essentially they expected to go to a charter school. When those computations were sent out last year, probably December or January, they expected more students to attend the charter school than what Jefferson County had as students in the charter school. So as a board, you budgeted $928,000, holding back thinking you weren't going to get that money from the state. The state has redone those computations, and we owe, and I'm going to use that word loosely because we've kind of changed those numbers around a little bit. Our holdback for charter schools is $754,000. So the state said we're not going to give you $928,000, but they're going to make that up in the difference because we only are sending worth $754,000 to charter schools. So that difference we are going to get from the state that we were not expecting.
So it's about 200.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Does that help? Okay, good. I'm glad.
I'd like to make a comment. I'm glad that we are still continuing the special project funds, and we're not neglecting those because it will catch up with us eventually if we don't.
Yes, sir, it will.
I just have one question. How much did you say we paid out for the credentialing program, please?
Around $820,000. I can give you an exact amount. Give me 1 second.
That's how much we paid out?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't
Okay.
need the exact, but I
Okay.
just want. Also, is it possible to get a copy of your
Absolutely.
Okay, I
Absolutely.
just would like to look at it closer because
Sure.
I'm new, so I'm new like you, so I just want to look at things.
Right, and if you look at the agenda online, there is a PDF of that
Is it?
slideshow.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's an attachment. If you go on board docs, it's an attachment to tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
And I just would have one comment real quick. First of all, Ms. Moss, thank you very much. This was really good, and I appreciate it. Second of all, I would say just as we move forward into budget season this year and kind of getting a glimpse of that, I did hear the presentation earlier regarding the cameras and stuff that are needed in the building and a different funding source for that. So, maybe looking at that long term, because I don't see where, with the changes in even the special ed rooms and the cameras that we were needing there and the things that we are progressing with, maybe as far as a safety needs period, because we will have to update and keep track of all of the entryways and stuff we've moved with the bond. So I don't know how much we need to allocate every year, but to look at some of those kinds of things and where that's going to be sustainable, I think we're going to have somewhere. But it's just a thought as we head into budget season.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Moving on to proposed levy rates for fiscal year '24.
Yes. So while Mr. Johnson's pulling that up, we do have 3 school levy taxes essentially that we run. We have a current expense levy, our bond levy, and an excess levy. West Virginia Code requires us to meet between March the 7th and March 28th to submit a proposal of our property tax rates to the state auditor for approval. So as you know, because you've done this a lot more often than I have, you will stand today's meeting adjourned, and it will reconvene on April the 18th after the state auditor has approved our levy rates, which are set for us anyway. So it's a little bit sometimes as a formality, but it gives us an opportunity to talk about those levy monies and what we do with those monies. So, Dr. Joy, I do think that the information I'm going to give you right now is going to answer a little bit of the question that you had. For our current levies, our staff received $1.2 million in November for levy checks. In March, they received $1.9 million. And our encumbered balance that we have currently for the May check that will go out will be $1.1 million. So our staff has received a total extra pay for $4.3 million this year as of what we've planned to expend with our May check, okay? If we go to the next slide, you'll see that our current expense levy, which is our regular levy, is a rate set by the legislature. Just like I was talking about, that's the charter school monies. The state expects us to raise an extra $407,000 this year with our taxes. So last year, our local share was $18.7 million. Well, sorry, our local share for this year is $18.7 million. Our local share last year for the public school support program, or those computations that I discussed, was $18.3 million. This does not change the tax rate at all. It's just based on what the legislature sets at their levy rates and what their expectation is for us to bring as a local share to the table for our budget season. Our levy rate is 1.85%, and that was approved on 1/31/23 by the state auditor's office. Our next levy that we carry is our bond levy. This was approved on November the 11th. The Municipal Bond Commission does send the superintendent a letter stating that we have to raise $3.3 million, and they require us to set aside 5 to 10% to have our fiscal allowance of $339,000, and it's placed in a reserve. Our excess levy is set for us. We have to submit that, like I said, to the state auditor's office for approval, and then we reconvene on the third Tuesday in April to make sure that we adopt that. That will be publicized tomorrow, and then it will be sent to the state auditor's office via email tomorrow by my office. Just a reminder that our approved excess levy call runs through June 30th of 2026. In your budget presentation that I'd shown earlier, there were the four standards of the extension services, the libraries, the health department, and Parks and Rec that we put in as interagency service purchases inside of the budget. And then we put aside $1.5 million for instructional media and technology, $1.3 million for school allocations, $1.8 million for professional development, $17.6 million for salary assistance for teachers, for a total of $22.4 million that was approved as the levy call. The Board of Education is authorized to expend any excess funds over that balance at 80% goes to personnel and 20% goes to the board discretion. This levy increase for this year is $3.4 million. I do have a trend data chart for you running from fiscal year 2009 to fiscal year 24. Our excess levy was a 12% increase for this year, from $25 million last year to $29 million this year, for a total increase of $3.4 million. This will be taken into consideration when we talk about the budget, but something to consider is that we need to make sure that we look at this and realize that this is not a sustainable thing. If you looked at the trend, it took from 2010 to 2022 for us to get back to where we were. And so you have to be cautious when we're deciding on budgeting, that we don't want to provide something to staff and then society changes, our economic status changes, and then that has to go away. So, the micro-credentialing and pieces that can stay when we have it and aren't impacting people negatively when we don't are things to consider when you're building and working on our budget for what it looks like with that extra funds that we have for this year. Okay? Do we have any questions about the levy?
Yeah, I have the same question that I had before.
Mm-hmm.
With all due respect, Ms. Moss and I am not going to be able to answer that question this evening. If there is an employee, we have reviewed everybody who is a long-term sub who may have become eligible for the levy pays to fall in line with that policy. If there's a long-term substitute who has not received the levy pay who may be eligible for it, then they need to email me directly so that way we can evaluate the eligibility of that employee.
Well, yeah, they're being told that long-term subs don't qualify for the program. And
that's correct.
It is not correct, though.
If you're certified, yes. If you are not certified teacher,
Right.
then no.
Right,
You do
but
not.
these are certified long-term subs being told they don't qualify, so.
Well, we have reviewed those who are eligible, who are long-term substitutes and certified, and we have processed them with finance. Those have been processed. If there's somebody who feels that they're eligible and they have not received anything, then they need to email us for us to check their eligibility. But from at this point tonight, I can tell you that we have processed those who are eligible for the program. If anybody's missing, they need to email me directly so that way I can have that opportunity to research that and respond to that person.
I'll send you an email tonight
thanks.
when I get a chance.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions regarding the levy this evening? And that presentation is also as an attachment in the agenda if you'd like to look at it. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Moss. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, next we have action to place the Neola Policy Handbook out on review.
Wow, you got a couple of inches on me, even without the heels. So thank you so much. We have been on a journey for about the last 2 years regarding our policy. Currently, our policy manual is a 319-page PDF that we have been working diligently to shift over to Neola. Neola, for those who may not be as familiar, is housed in the same software program as our board meetings called Board Docs. And it has a number of features to recommend it over our current policy format. One of the most important being that it is a searchable document. Any citizen can go into a search box, type in a term, and it will pull up for them any and all policies related to that term, regardless of where it is in the manual. It also has a feature that will be enormously important to us, I believe, moving forward as we try to continue to make things more accessible and transparent for the public, in that with those online policies, once we've gone through the process of adoption, the next phase of this is to adopt administrative guidelines, which are like standard operating procedures. So if you were, say, looking for our discipline policy and you typed in discipline, it would take you to every single policy that pertained to that. You would, perhaps you're looking for a discipline appeal. You would click on that, and then it would have a discipline appeal form for you to fill out and send in. So the first step of that process is for us to actually adopt this format and this policy. If you will recall, these policies are taken directly from the state of West Virginia. Neola utilizes Bowles Rice, the law firm, to vet these, and part of their process is that they will guarantee to the board and provide legal services if any of them are challenged because they are pre-vetted. So we did, I wanted to give you a brief preview of what the policy looks like online and how we would present it to individuals to go through and review the policy. My suggestion to the board is that this be placed out on public review, and you keep it out on public review until the end of this school year. We've got our current policy. It is confusing and frustrating to staff when we are adopting policy piecemeal. Some of our policy is in one place, some of it is in another. So my recommendation will be to place the entire policy out for public review until the end of June, and then you can adopt it for the next school year. We can pull in public comment on a monthly basis and bring it back to you and review any requested changes or concerns a little bit at a time as we go along. So, Mr. Johnson, I believe that you have a video to queue up for me to show the process, sir?
Anyone can access the draft JCS policy manual through our website at www.jcswv.org. Under the menu feature, scroll down to JCS Policies, then click on JCS Policy Manual for public comment. The manual is housed on the Board Docs platform, an easy-to-navigate, searchable website designed for managing documents like policies. The policy manual for public review will come up when you follow the link on the JCS website. You can review policies on the left. Choose the section you wish to review. Then click on individual policies to get more details. You can also use the search feature to find specific policies or topics you're interested in. Instructions for participating in public comment are at the bottom of the list to the left. Use the form linked in the instructions to submit a comment. Select the section you're commenting on. List the specific policies with your comments. Include as many policies in that section as you like, and click Submit. To comment on a different section, please submit a new form.
So we have the capacity to both put this out and to be able to give the board an electronic policy by policy review of all of the feedback that you receive on it. So I am happy to take any questions about Neola or about the process that you have. I went through while he was presenting and I couldn't replicate it. Well, actually, ma'am, we haven't turned it on because you haven't voted.
Dr. Joy, if you could use your microphone, that would be helpful, please.
I'm trying to get it on. Yeah, I haven't been able to look at 300 pages myself. I'm just uncomfortable. I can't determine what is the old versus what is the new and exactly how to find these policies. So I just, yeah, I'm not comfortable sending out policies that I don't, know if they're good policies myself. So when will they be available for the board?
The policy manual, so first of all, we have a current policy manual. That's the 319-page PDF. It is one single document, can't be broken up, isn't searchable. That is on our website. And Mr. Fogel has put together a page so that as folks go on there, here is our our current policy, and then here, click here, are all of the new policies that are out on review. Now, I will remind you when we say new policies, these are simply the Neola format for the state policies. Those are, in most cases, nearly identical. They may be under slightly different places. And none of the new draft policies are up yet because you haven't voted to put them out on review yet. So what Mr. Fogel just showed you isn't in the public view yet because you haven't voted to put them out yet.
Right, but why would we vote to put them out if we don't know what they are ourselves?
They are all of the policies that currently exist only in the Neola format. And part of the reason for doing this is to have the entire policy manual out. The board has access at any point, as do the public, to look through the drafts for all of those.
How do we, because I am not able to. How does the board have access to see all those recent updates that were made? Because it's just not clear. I've seen things that are scratched out or crossed out, but the final draft of what would go out to the public, where is that?
It's on the board doc site. If you would like, we would be happy if you'd like to come in or do a Zoom session with us so that we can walk you step by step through where everything is on the website in terms of the policy. I'm more than happy to do that.
So you're saying it is available?
I am saying that it's available to the board and to us. It will be publicly available for everybody to see the drafts when the board votes to put it out for public comment.
Because when I asked earlier, previously, I don't know when it was, a few days ago, I got the response that it wasn't available, that you were waiting for Neola. So I've been waiting for that response.
So
you're saying that we can view this, the one with all the changes?
Are you asking, can you view the entire policy manual? Yes, certainly. Yes, ma'am.
the one that you are wanting us to send out to the public? With For the review, changes? for Okay. review, And yes, we ma'am. can view that ourselves somehow online?
Yes, ma'am.
Only the board can do that?
No, ma'am. Once the board votes, everyone will be able to.
Right, but right now you're saying it is available to the board?
I can turn it on for the board, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it still hasn't been available to the board then?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, that's my point. How can we, I mean, I don't know about others, but I can't agree to send something out that I haven't seen myself.
Ma'am, all of the policies that are going out are the exact same policies that you already have and have had for years. They are simply in the Neola format. So we did not create a whole new set of policies. These are policies that have existed for many years, and where there are opportunities to review those and make any suggestions, that's why we're asking that you put the entire thing out, spend as long as you would like reviewing it, and then you always have control as a board for when you adopt or don't adopt those. That power lies in your hands. I think it is a positive, transparent process when you put things out for the public to have a significant amount of time to review them.
Well, in a way, but number one, you're saying over 300 pages going out at once, but my point is we met several times and there were changes made, but we've never seen those final changes. And that's what you are asking to go out to the public. It's not the same thing, just in a different format. These are things that have been crossed out and rewritten, and the board has not, or at least I have not seen these changes. I participated in some meetings where we discussed changes we wanted, but we never saw the final outcome.
Dr. Gibson-Lauren, can I ask for just a moment of clarification that when we had 2 meetings when we went over the policy section for the board that pertained to us, we made live changes during those meetings as we discussed each and every policy in detail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I
And
changed
so-
it in the program while we were in the meeting for you
Right.
to review. Yes,
So
ma'am.
those changes that we made live during those 2 meetings, that's what the draft policy is, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the rest of the policy, I assume, has been reviewed by other staff members that pertain to that policy. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, for their particular areas of responsibility. Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. Go right
So,
ahead.
I'm just trying to understand. So, just like they said, we had the meetings, we made the changes,
Mhm.
several changes in the 2 meetings that we had.
Yes, ma'am.
So, all of those changes that we made makes it so that the document is not the same. It's been edited from what people have seen previously, right? So the edits that we did, that you did right there on the spot as we were there.
Yes, ma'am.
So were those, and I'm hoping that I'm clarifying what Dr. Joy was saying. So are those already out where the board can see them, or have they been out where we can see them and we just didn't know, or something like that?
So, on those, your specific chapter, yes, ma'am, those you are able to see, yes. We had those set up for you to be able to see, but not the ones that everyone else was working on, because Neola was going through and processing all of those. But your chapter, as soon as we did those edits live in those are up in the draft for you to be able to see, just not the other ones that everyone was editing while you were doing yours.
So in the 300 and some odd
Well,
pages,
the
right?
300 pages is the PDF,
No, but I'm saying
Neola and all of the sections and the chapters, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. I hope that helps.
Any other questions?
Can I make a motion that we place the Neola handbook policy out on review?
Yes, ma'am. Is there a second?
I made a motion that we put the policy out on review.
Is there a second to put the Neola Policy Handbook out on review?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All in favor of putting the Neola Policy Handbook out on review, say aye.
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 Oppose?
Oppose.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have action on approval of advisory committee members and the establishment of service term.
Yes, ma'am. Previously, we had spoken regarding the initial advisory committee meetings for each of the different topics. Those were held over the past 2 weeks. All of them offered both live and via Zoom for individuals. All of you have in front of you the agenda, the advisory committee members, and the committee sign-in sheets for all of the individuals who were in attendance who are requesting to be appointed as on the advisory committee. So you have two responsibilities. One is to determine who of these you will approve as being on the advisory committee. There is no requirement that you go through and do it individually. That would be enormously time-consuming. I would simply advise that you review those, and if you have any suggestions, I know that Dr. Joy had a suggestion at the last meeting regarding certain categories. I would simply state that I don't think it would be prudent to go through and select individual people, one or the other, but categories I think would be an appropriate discussion for an open session. And then after determining who you approve as members, you will need to set a term of service, which is essentially how long you want this committee to serve to achieve its purpose for you.
Thank you. We just got these this evening, so if you don't mind just giving us a moment.
Not at all, ma'am. You take your time. We had the...
I have a question. On the semester exam, 2 people were removed. I was wondering why they were removed.
I believe because these notes are taken from the Miss Willard, who was the administrator who ran the initial meetings. I believe that they came to her and asked to be removed from that committee. I think we did have some individuals who signed up for multiple committees, and once they did, they found the idea a bit overwhelming.
And Miss Willard, her name is there, but that doesn't mean she's wanting to be on these committees, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She was the facilitator, and I do have to. She's obviously not here this evening, but I have to give her a shout out. This was an enormous undertaking to organize these meetings, set up the Zooms, facilitate everyone coming in, getting to know each other, having an activity. And then having a brainstorming process to discuss what they sort of all hope to get out of serving, and to vote on chairperson, secretary, timekeeper, technology assistant, a research assistant, which I thought was a great idea as well. And all of them went very, very smoothly. We've gotten very positive feedback, and I think we have a lot of folks who are excited about the opportunity to explore these and give some feedback to the board.
I don't know the exact role of the specific employee that I mentioned previously, but I see that he went ahead and joined the meeting anyway. I don't know if he's a supervisor or superintendent, maybe a deputy superintendent.
I went through, because you had previously conveyed some concerns about administrators being part of these meetings. So I went through for the board and reviewed all of the membership on these agendas. So on the Senate Exam Advisory Committee, there is one coordinator. On the Human Resources Advisory Committee, there are 3 principals. On the Discipline Advisory Committee, there are 2 principals. On the Special Education Advisory Committee, there are 2 coordinators, 1 director and 1 assistant superintendent. On the Nutrition Advisory Committee, there is 1 coordinator and 1 principal.
Yeah,
So those are the categories of employees. Of course, I know many of the teachers and teaching assistants, but I did not go through and count all of those.
Thank you. I personally don't think that the director or coordinators, assistant superintendents should be part of the advisory committees. I think they should make themselves available for questions should committees have them, but I just think that it'll, if people are concerned about improving special education, they need to be able to speak freely, and especially if there's special ed teachers on the list, their supervisor shouldn't be sitting in on the sessions.
I do agree with that, and I used the example, our last meeting, Dr. Gibson, it's the same case scenario when you were meeting with parents and you asked me not to come, even though I'm a parent, but because I'm a school board member, because people wouldn't feel that they might not feel that they can speak openly. So it's the same case scenario.
That is certainly a decision of the board. You guys set the rules for who serves on these advisory committees and in what capacity.
Dr. Gibson-Learn, do we have, how do these committees broken down once people who showed up and have joined, and how this is? I notice on, that I do like the fact that it looks as though on most of these committees, the chair people, secretary, like anybody who actually holds a position, do not seem to be in those roles, which I think is a good thing. My question is, how do we line up looking at these lists to the current policy of this many parents or this many that, or I know we wanted to have some students on here, and I feel like that's the one thing in my viewpoint that we're missing, whether they didn't know enough about it, whether they didn't have the time to show up, whether they, who knows. But for me, parents who serve as parents, not dual roles of being a parent and a teacher, would be very important, and students would be very important in every single one of these committees. So however we set those up, if we allow at least for the first few weeks as they move on here to see if they can solicit some more feedback or attendees of those 2 groups, in my opinion, that would be important.
So a couple of things. When you talked about the officers or the chairperson for each one of them, the only one that has a coordinator for a chairperson is the Nutrition Advisory Committee. The chairperson for that is the administrator for the school nutrition program. As far as the others, I don't believe any of the others have. Some of them have teachers or staff people as the chairperson,
but none of the rest of them are administrators. The chair people aren't administrators. One of them has a principal for a timekeeper, but another one has a principal. Apparently the principals like being timekeepers, so. But as far as, again, the limitation that is currently in your policy is no more than 25 on a committee. You are within that limit on all of the committees currently. And you can solicit or direct us to solicit in any way that you wish. If you'd like for us to send out an invitation on the committees to students, to high school students or to any students, we're more than capable of doing that.
I thought that we had these committees, they signed up, we have these settled, they met, they voted. So these are the people that are being proposed for this go-round. Maybe for next year, we can encourage students to participate more. But I thought it was open in plenty of time for everybody. It seems that that would have been discussed at a previous meeting if it wasn't open long enough to get enough, participation.
One thing a couple things I noticed. The first one is on the discipline committee. There's number 8, doesn't have a last name on there. It's just Gail.
I saw that, and I'll have to go back to Ms. Willard and get that person's name, and they would have to go on to either a later agenda, or you can approve Gail, and I'll find out who Gail is. No, I'll find out who that person's last name is.
And then the other thing I noticed is 3 of these advisory committees came up with very specific focuses, and 2 of them, they're still developing those. So I don't know if I'd be comfortable approving the 2 that haven't come up with their focus yet.
Certainly, it's your purview as a board.
We're not approving their topics. We're approving the people. That was the point of this, is just to approve the members of these, not what they will choose to discuss and when they choose to discuss it. We allowed the public to create these committees and, decide what they felt was important, and, maybe they're still working on it.
I might need some help here because I thought that the policy stated that we approve the committees and their timeline and the purpose of the committee.
In the policy, and I should have had it in front of me, it said that the board appointed the advisory committees, and in theory, and we talked about this a little bit last time, that policy was written with a slightly different purpose than what you appear to be using this for. So in the past, that policy was written where you would have a decision to make. Like semester exams is a perfect example. The board had a predetermined, narrow, time-limited decision to make, and you had appointed an advisory committee with a specific problem that you had already identified. And so they signed up for that specific thing, and you said no more than 25, and here's how long you have, right? So what you've done, at least the way you have it set up right now, is the specificity that you gave was special ed or discipline or nutrition. You did not set here is the issue I would like for you to resolve. These advisory committees are at least the way they have evolved to date,
appear to be a bit more of like a brainstorming think tank kind of group. And it's several of them, like you said, they have gained some consensus about what's the most important to them. And the board, again, you have full authority. Advisory committees only exist to give you advice about something. So if you as a board want the thing that you're getting advice on to be specified up front, you have every authority to do that. That's your decision as a board. Advisory committees don't exist until you approve them, okay? So, you know, if you'd like to go back to a committee and say, okay, you guys have your officers, you have these folks, and we'd like to know what your focus is before we approve this committee, that's within the policy for you to do. If you want to say, hey, you have your officers, you have your committee members, and you're still working on what your exact focus is, but we know it's in discipline, and you want to appoint them, again, you have that authority. The only limitations that you have placed on yourself through your previous policy is no more than 25, and you must approve all of the members, and you must give them a term limit. So,
I think that we should approve members except for administration roles. Anybody in a principal and beyond shouldn't be included, and that it should last for a year. So this time next year, people can apply to be on the committees again.
I'd like to make a motion for what Dr. Joy just said. Doctor, repeat it again, please.
That we accept everybody that signed up for the committees except for anybody in the role of administration. So principals and higher. Principals, coordinators, superintendent, assistant superintendent.
And to
okay,
for 1 year.
Yeah.
So this time next year.
Right. This time next year, they'll apply.
And are you including Gail in that motion?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
What?
Are you including Gail in that motion?
I think that a
we don't
person
know
has
who
to have a
Gail
last
is.
name down
Yeah.
to be accepted.
yeah,
There's
I
a lot
can
of
go
Gails
back and
out
get
there.
that. I can go back and get that piece of information.
So once we get that piece of information, then can we vote Gail in? Do we have to vote
You
again?
can
or-
subsequently vote again. You can subsequently vote someone in as advisory committee member later. You have that authority as long as you don't go over 25 people, because that's the limit
so
set in your
if
policy.
students do want to come in, then we can vote and say, yes, you all can be on.
You guys have the legal authority to put anyone on the advisory committee. Mhm.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand your motion, Dr. Joy. The only thing you're doing is to remove administration, coordinator, principal, and higher, and make the committee for 1 year.
Exactly. That's for the motion.
So you're leaving Gail in there as?
Yeah,
Well,
as
I
long as
made the
she's not,
motion, so.
as long as she's not a,
I just made the motion. I just had her clarify what she was saying. But in my motion, I was saying that we not include Gail for now until we find out who Gail actually is. And then we can come back and vote on her again.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Bratton. So I didn't realize it was you. I was going back to Dr. Joy. So your motion is to approve all the advisory committees, removing administration, principals, coordinators, and higher, make them for 1 year, and remove Gail from the discipline committee for not having a last name.
Just until we find out her last name, yes. Once we find out her last name, then we can vote again on
Okay.
her.
And is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Okay. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Is there discussion?
Discussion, sorry.
I think that the semester exam committee, we were trying to get an answer out of this year so we'd have a policy for next year.
I think I like the idea of possibly doing either 6 months or school year, or trying to, I know that we got started a little bit late this year, but I feel as though, committees are going to be meeting, but then maybe to the start of the year, they can come back, give their recommendations, and then by December, we're creating or signing up. Then you get a half a year.
I have a hard time hearing what you're saying,
Are you
because
saying-
your mic is too
saying
close.
6
Go ahead.
months?
Pardon me?
Did you say for 6 months and then like in December, come back and like report? Is that what you were saying?
Right, I'm thinking that, I know that we got started a little bit later this year.
Yes.
But I don't know if we go a year from now till next year, and, again, as Mark has alluded to, number one, I don't think we're going to get back what we want fast enough, even looking at nutrition.
We can give a
some different
directive.
pieces. Just give me just a second, and then you can speak. If we do something where we have the committees and we do a 6-month rotation, we go to half the school year, maybe December they report, then we get new committees that start again after the holidays. Those folks go again January to December, or however we want to do it, January to the end of the year. I don't know, but I think that the 1 year from here to then, I think the folks that are on these committees may get tired and frustrated. I also feel really strongly that we either need to, as I think I did see someone send out a request, I think it was maybe semester exams, looking for student input, and I thought it was some kind of a student survey I saw them pass through, and maybe somebody posted it on Facebook. I thought that was great, looking for that, because I look at semester exams, discipline, and nutrition, and special ed. All of those 4, at least, students are affected by those policies. So I think that either you're going to need to do some kind of a survey with students, but you need to collect student data before you make decisions for students. In my opinion, I think, especially if they're not going to serve on these committees.
So, question for you, please. So were the students not, didn't we include them in when we were asking for people to sign up? Excuse me. Didn't we include students as well?
I would assume that, again, parents are paying attention to board meetings. Students aren't paying very much attention. I mean, I think unless you're going to go solicit students, you're probably not going to get them sign up for committee meetings. It doesn't sound very exciting as a student. And again, I'm not saying that we have to change these committees. All I'm asking is that from these committees,
if we get it, we can vote them in.
they solicit. Right? Well, I think we talked as well, if we get these committees started and these are the committees, we don't want to necessarily change or bring new folks in midway through, because that kind of changes the dynamic of what we're asking. This is your committee, you look at it. I'm just asking them, as committees, can they please make sure that part of the data that they are going to present to us includes student data, that they have done their due diligence to go seek students out.
So
and then
wait a minute, I have one more question for her, or not just for you, but for all of us. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, the only other piece for me personally, I do not care as long as an administrator is not serving in a chairperson role, and they're there to answer questions, they're there to provide information, they're there whatever. Other than Mr. Bites, I think that makes sense. He's in nutrition. I mean,
Mr. Who? I'm sorry.
Dylan.
Oh, Dylan.
I think that as the chairperson of that committee, obviously there's going to be lots of ideas, but if they can't do them because you don't know the rules or whatnot,
I think he does
he may
have to be a part of it.
able to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, I think that looking at the people who have signed up, I think they've done a good job of doing that. That's my personal opinion. But anyway, so what was your other question?
Okay, so to go on what Mark just said, is it possible, I know we're saying 6 months, but is it possible so that we can, for the nutrition and the semester exams, we need that information for next year. So is it possible to have like a 3-month report back? I'm just asking, is it possible? Because then that way, that would give us something to vote on for next year.
It would not be a violation of your policy to set different term limits for each advisory committee. You certainly are well within the policy if you choose to do that.
Okay.
I think you'd add discipline to that as well, to
Okay.
try to get a
Oh,
handle
yes,
on that.
you're right. Okay.
And be ready for, so that all the principals and staff members can be, solidified in what's going to happen for next year, students as well.
I just wanted to say, I don't think, there are, some of these committees are collecting data. I don't believe that just because these committees give us advice that we are tied to following them. And it is the board's responsibility to really collect the data and,
But it's just to
charge
get
the
what they-
administration to collect the data. And,
Right.
But we
what I'm
cannot be
saying is
relying
to
on
get,
the committees for, accurate data. I mean, they could be all
Well,
scientists, but that is our
No, I'm
job.
not saying to depend
I wasn't
on them
talking
for
to
data.
you,
Oh,
and I
thought
can't hear
were
you
talking about the
anyway.
3 months. I'm
Huh?
sorry, I thought you were talking about the 3 months.
No, I was talking
okay.
about the suggestion that Ms. Ogden made that these committees collect data from students. And I do know
okay.
that they are collecting data from students because I saw polls on Facebook asking college students, how much their exams weigh. And so they are already actively collecting data. I'm just saying that I think that we still need to collect our own data. We can't just wait till August and wait for a committee to tell us what they found. I think that we really need to look at the research ourselves, have administration look at the research rather, and
I guess I'm confused as to why you have a committee, an advisory committee, if you're not going to allow them to advise you and do the work that you've asked them to do.
there's a lot of people that advise. That doesn't mean that's the only source of information. Yes, they will advise, but that doesn't mean that because they found something, that's our final decision. I mean, we
That's
collect
true.
all sorts of information,
Right.
not just from advisory committees. We have professional educators that they can collect data, and
But we're
the
asking that the professional
administration-
educators, and to your point, you're asking that the professional educators not even be on the committee.
I didn't hear what you said.
I said you're asking that the professional educators not even be on the committee.
No, I didn't say that. They're
Well,
on the committees.
principals are professional
Yeah.
educators.
Yeah, but no, I'm asking that administrators not be on the committee so that people are free to, explore and do whatever they need to do without worrying that their administrator is watching them, no matter what the issue is. They don't want to, say something against their administrator. It's just not appropriate to have the administrator in a meeting when the idea is that the people are going to meet to advise the board. But it is not the responsibility. It would be nice if these committees collect data, which, like I said, many of them have been very professional in collecting data. My concern is that the board gives up and waits for a committee. And we've had since November, when you brought this issue up about changing the weight, we have this time to ask for a review of the literature from the superintendent of what are best
we settled
practices.
that issue and then asked this committee to get us some information and advise us on what our policy should be going forward for the next school year. That was my understanding. We settled the issue for this semester. Nobody has any questions. We're moving forward. And then we are waiting until until this committee comes back, which I was assuming they understand that as well, that they're going to give a recommendation so that we start the school year out correctly with whatever we decide based on their recommendation, which could be the same.
We're
I don't
going to
know.
go by what the committee's told us. Yes, we have asked them, we've, created these committees, and we have started a process, but we have never voted to say we will accept whatever these committees tell us to do.
No, that's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you do take that into consideration when you've asked somebody to give all this time and effort and energy to research what you've asked them to research.
So they'll come back and advise us.
Yes.
And then, once they advise us.
We make a
then
decision.
And we
Yeah.
have other.
Exactly.
Advisors as well. Then that's when, we'll discuss what they brought back and maybe what the superintendent, may bring, or, whoever is in those positions would bring to us, and we would discuss them. So it's just advising us as the board, advisory committees advising us, but not that we will, and I didn't hear anybody say that we will go with whatever is brought back to us. They're advising us, we will think about it, we'll talk about it, we'll look at it, and move from there. Is that what we're saying? Lori?
Yeah, I look at it as advisory committee as they're doing a lot of hard work. They're working together. They're going to bring back the best practices and best
Right.
advice that they have for us as a school system.
Right.
And that they've done their due diligence to give us that information. And then we make our decision based on the information that they give us. I mean, sometimes we agree with them and sometimes we don't on pretty much everything else. But
It'll
I
be their
think that
advice to
I have
us.
faith, at least, in the fact that the people that I look at these names across here should come back with some pretty good information. I mean, I don't know what that will be, but I'm excited to see what they have to say, and I have full confidence that they will come back prepared to answer the questions that we have.
Right, so when they come back and advise us, then we'll look at what they've advised us, right? Because when somebody
Correct.
advises you, that doesn't mean that you have to do exactly what they say, but we will definitely look at their information, look at other information that comes to us, and go from there for a decision.
Maybe it would be easier to actually just look at them each individually, because like with the exam one, maybe we can give them 3 months, like April, May, June. They come to the first July board meeting with their recommendations,
Yes.
and then we have it for the next school year.
I
So,
agree.
So we have a motion on the floor we
I
have
know,
to take
we
care
do
of.
have a motion on the floor that Ms. Bratton put to, so let's start with that and vote on that.
We can amend that part, though, for the, where I said a year. So, can I amend my motion?
You can either amend your motion, or we can just not, we can vote it down and then move on and do each one individually.
Okay.
So the motion on the floor is to remove admin, meaning principals, coordinators, and hire, make the committees for a year, and remove Gail from the discipline committee. There was a motion by Ms. Bratton, second by Dr. Joy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
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 Motion doesn't pass. Okay, so we can go ahead and just start with the exam one, since that's the one we were talking about a moment ago. Is there a motion to accept the exam committee, giving them a timeline of 3 months to come back the first meeting in July with a recommendation?
I make a motion that we accept the members of the exam committee and that they report to us in July.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne and Ms. Ogden, any discussion on the exam?
Yeah, so are there administrators on that list?
Yes,
Yeah?
ma'am, there
Yeah.
is, and I can, if you'd like, at the beginning of each one, I can do that. I gave them all to you a minute ago, but semester exam, there is one coordinator on that semester exam advisory committee. There is one coordinator on the semester exam advisory committee. They happen to be an elementary coordinator, but they have a high school
student, son. So,
So it's technically not a high school coordinator.
no, she's not a high school coordinator at all. She's an elementary, she coordinates 3 through 5 instruction. And
Okay, so right now, there's a motion on the floor to accept the exam committee and have them report back in July with the list of members as presented. All in favor of that motion? Oh,
Can
did
we-
you have any discussion?
I'm sorry, can we break that up into like 2 motions? Because to accept who's on the committee is 1 motion, it should be.
No,
Well-
that is the motion as stated with both of those things in it.
Okay, so
Okay, so what if you don't agree with part of the motion?
vote
You
no.
vote
then
no.
you say no.
You vote no.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to accept the exam committee, have them report in July with the members presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oppose.
Oppose.
Motion passes. Okay. Next, we have the nutrition committee. Is there a motion, or would somebody like to create a motion about the nutrition committee?
I make a motion that we accept the participants on the committee list and to also ask them to report back in 3 months by July 1st.
I second that.
I'm sorry, what?
I second that.
So can we say July, Ms. Bratton, instead of July 1st, just so we have?
July,
Because
yes, that's
we'll just pick that, one of those meetings then.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion is to accept the members of the nutrition committee and have them report back to the board in July. That was made by Ms. Bratton, seconded by Dr. Joy. Any further discussion on that one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have the Special Education Committee. Is there a motion for the Special Education Committee?
I'll make a motion that we approve the committee members as listed and that they would serve through November and give us a recommendations the first meeting in December.
All right, is there a second to approve the Special Education Advisory Committee with a term limit through November to report back to the board in December?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ogden, and thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any discussion on that one?
Yeah, so you're saying that it's okay to have the assistant superintendent as part of that committee? I don't
Absolutely.
agree with
He's
that.
to me, as long as he's not serving as a chairperson or whatnot, I think he has good things that he can add to that.
All right, so the motion is to approve the Special Education Committee with the committee members presented through November to report back in December. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Oppose.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, next up, we have the Discipline Committee.
Dr. Gibson, do we have any directors or anybody on that list?
There are 2 principals on that committee.
So is there a motion for the Discipline Committee?
I make a motion, we accept the participants of the discipline committee except for Gail, and that they report back to us in July, for the first meeting in July.
Well, how about if we just say report in July, and that way if
July.
committee members are on
That's fine.
vacation or something? Okay.
Yes.
And as a point of clarification, Mr. Osborne, we would be willing to accept Gail if, once we know her name, is that clear?
Yes,
We
Is that
know a
fair?
little bit more about Gail.
Okay.
Okay, so The motion on the disciplinary committee is to accept the members removing number 8, Gail, because of the fact that she's missing a last name, and have them serve until July and report back to the board in July. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that one.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. So the motion is to approve the disciplinary committee as presented, removing Gail, and have them report back to the board in July. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to make it possible that if Gail has a last name, that we would look at that individual at a time in the future.
Yes. Okay, perfect. I think Dr. Gibson-Learn's going to get us that information
Absolutely.
for our next
I
meeting.
certainly will. You'll have it for your next meeting.
All right. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Oppose?
Oppose.
All right, motion passes. It was just Dr. Joy opposing that one. All right, next up we have the Human Resource Advisory Committee. And everybody on that one has a last name.
Anyone on this one, Dr. Gibson?
There are 3 principals on that committee, ma'am.
Actually, I think that's a good thing in this case.
All right, is there a motion for the Human Resource one?
I make a motion that we accept the members of the Human Resource Committee and that they report back to us in July. We can extend them to November if we wish, but I would like input back from them if possible in July.
If you vote to July, you can vote again in July to add another term, change the membership. That's well within your authority as a board.
All right, so the motion made by Mr. Osborne is to approve the committee members presented for the HR Advisory Committee and have them report back to the board in July.
Second it.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. We will send a notice out to all of the participants, letting them know that they've been approved and the term limits that were set by the board. Thank
And
you.
there are probably a lot of people out there right now with a sigh of relief that they just got sentenced with a 3-month term instead of a year-long term.
Perhaps, perhaps.
Well, let's have them fall in love with the process first. And thank you very much. I know you gave Ms. Willard a shout out, but I do appreciate all the work that she did herding those cats and getting those committees together.
Let me just also a big thank you to Janet Harner and to technology and Joan Willard and HR. It took a lot of staff to get all of the information. Hans putting together the form up on the website, Jason pulling all of those down and putting those lists together. It's a massive undertaking to get that many people organized, coordinated. Brenda Sweeney over at the bus garage. I mean, it just, Jen Rowan setting up the Zooms for us. It's a lot to make sure that people have accessibility. It takes staff and effort. So thank you very much to the staff who made this happen. So thanks.
And would it be possible once these 2 committees that didn't have a focus, once they pick a focus, to just convey that to the board just so we know what to expect in July?
Absolutely, I can send that in there because I'll do separate emails to each of the committees letting them know that they've been appointed. And for those 2 committees, I can add that the board would be interested in getting information on their focus once they've decided that at a meeting. Certainly. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome, ma'am.
All right. Now that we're past that process, we're on to board member comments and committee reports. Mrs. Bratton, do you have anything?
That's okay. I would like to say that I am really, just very proud of our students who were here tonight, and I would like to wish good luck to our track and field that is in session now. And my prayers to Lynn Black's friends and family. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne?
I had a 4-H extension meeting this past week, and it was enlightening to see how much participation that 4-H has within our classrooms, especially elementary. And we'd like for them, I would like to try to get Mr. Banks to get them to come to us in September and give us idea of their programs and how many they're putting out in their schools. This last 3-month period, I think they touched over 700 and some kids, so it was amazing. Epic meeting, we had some part-time hires. That group is having, we have a strong financial bounce at this time, and we had a bit of COVID money we had to spend, and we purchased a new bus for the Head Start program.
Thank you. Ms. Ogden?
Number one, just wanted to, again, to say thanks to all the students who came and the parents. Just wanted to give a shout out as well for the science part. Russ Stone, who was here with his, him going to Dallas, Texas. I've had the pleasure of watching that actual science fair project since middle school. At Harper's Ferry, he has been developing that and continuing to develop, and I just watch these students, and it's exciting to see all the great things that they're going to accomplish in changing the world. So also a shout out, I saw 2 names on the list this week for sure, Matt Holmes and Eric Graff, who are former students here and are now giving back, one with coaching track, of which he ran, and one is helping in the music area, of which he was also in the music area when he was here. So it's just exciting to see them come back. Thankful for a very safe military ball, which was the same night, I believe, as the Night to Shine. And also, that was really fun to watch some of the Facebook posts of parents of those students. Just those students were so excited to have that prom. And a huge shout out to Mr. Wink and everybody who made that happen. It was a great, great thing. Also got a thanks on the side today just of a parent in the community that wanted to give a shout out to Devin Pearl. Just the parent was really shaken by a situation and said, look, I know you hear a lot of negative things, but she was wonderful with me. And so she was so thankful. So I just wanted to give her that shout out. And as far as the libraries go, for students and parents out there, there's a lot of apps I know online. One of which I use is called the Libby app, Libby app. You just put your library card in there. And they have a lot of auditory books as well, so you can listen to the audiobook. If you don't have a Kindle or anything like that, you just put it on your phone. And you can listen to that in the car for students if they're, they need to read Animal Farm or many other things that are being assigned to them. It is a priceless app to have as a parent. And anytime in the car, put the book in, and it's a great opportunity instead of some of the music they listened to today. As just my side note. Anyway, thanks so much, and I hope everybody has a great week.
Dr. Joy?
Okay, let's see. The Promise Scholarship has been extended till May 1st. The West Virginia Scholar application is due April 30th, and that's at wvscholar.com, and that offers full tuition, room and board, and that's open to juniors to apply. Congratulations to Brianna Goins at Jefferson High. She's committed to Indiana Tech University. Let's see, Summer Career Academy at James Rumsey for 9th and 10th graders. I can register at jamesrumsey.com. That's from June 7th to June 9th. The Paul Saab Scholarship from the Key Club has a deadline of March 31st, and so far no students have applied from Jefferson or Washington. During the presentations for basketball for the boys at Jefferson, one that was not mentioned on the girls, Jefferson girls basketball team, she received honorable mention for all states. Mackenzie Brzkovic.
Bresnik.
Washington High School, the librarian or the library specialist, Miss Curry, she's now a published author. So congratulations to her. The Jefferson High School softball is, they're selling raffle tickets and having a bingo night. That's April 2nd. Tickets are $20. And then the cultural diversity, I forgot to mention at the last meeting, but we're talking about creating a mentor program for students that are at risk and also the English language learners. And one of the, it wasn't mentioned, but mentioning students that came back to coach. Lily Simmons and her brother are the swim coaches at Washington High. Lily was a star swimmer and pole vaulter at Jefferson High. And that's all.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mrs. Marcus and Washington High School for the event that they had on March 21st, which was a long time coming. It was the lights on the baseball and softball field. So it was the first home game under the lights, and they had a bunch of alumni here to be recognized, and it was just a really, really nice event. And then the other thing is just wishing everybody a safe and rejuvenating spring break to get us through the push to the end of the year. Yes.
Did he turn me off? I just want to make an announcement. The Jefferson High School Alumni Dance for Jefferson high school classes from 1973 to 2020. That's April the 22nd at the Moose Lodge in Ranson from 7:30 to 11:30. Options for social hour of 5:30 to 7:30. The tickets are $10 per person, and you must be 21 to attend. I know that each class has tickets that they're selling, or you can also get your tickets at T-Dogs down on Main Street of Charlestown. And I'm sorry, I don't have their address, but it's T-Dogs, TEEDAWGS. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Gibson-Learn, do we have an executive session this evening? Okay, then I make a motion to recess this meeting because of the fiscal year 24 levy until April 18th, which is the third Tuesday in the month, which is in code. Is there a motion to do that?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All in favor of recessing this meeting until April 18th, say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you very much.